Hi, I'm Katie Whittigan, and I'm a habit designer. I've been helping people for over 14 years with their habits and behaviors in all the important areas in life, whether that be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. And I'm here to give you an insider tip on habits and behavior. In previous videos, we've talked about how to undo an unwanted habit. And we've talked about how we need to create a web of support, which is a stable structure in all the ways in which we can support ourselves to undo a habit. And we talked about how we need to create threads in each of the four main areas of support, which is mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And today I'm going to talk about emotional. So when it comes to the emotional aspect of undoing an unwanted habit, it's important to recognize what emotions that you might be having that might be triggering you to do an undesirable habit or behavior. For example, let's say the undesirable habit is drinking. Let's say the triggered emotion is stress. And you might even have a belief that I'm feeling stressed and the only way to really calm myself down effectively is to have a drink. And while it might help you feel calm in the moment, it might give you undesirable consequences in the end by maybe having more drinks than you actually want to, making you feel more tired, increasing inflammation in the body, all sorts of undesirable impacts, right? So the first trick when it comes to the emotional aspect of our supported web is to practice and learn how to let emotions flow. Oftentimes when it comes to undesirable emotions, we build them up in our minds to be much more significant than they might actually be if we just allow ourselves to feel them. In other words, we might feel a lot of stress or pain remembering a certain event, or we might be really worried about our anger, the amount of intensity of the anger we feel. I know this is really common amongst men as well. And the reality is, a lot of the times we tend to, as a culture, stuff our emotions down, have a drink, and just try not to actually feel the emotion, because why would you want to feel an undesirable emotion? It makes sense, it really does. But the thing about emotions is they can trigger us to do things we don't want to actually do, and that we build them up in our minds to be worse than they actually are. The process of allowing emotions to flow is really just one, bringing awareness to how we feel. Step one, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling calm? Am I feeling angry? Noticing how we feel and allowing it to be okay. The more we resist against an emotion, the stronger it becomes. I liken it to the metaphor of someone coming and knocking on your door. Let's say anger is knocking on your door. Knock, 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 knock. And you're like, I don't want to deal with anger, so I'm just going to ignore it. If I just don't answer the door, he'll go away. Except the anger knows you're inside the house. So anger just starts knocking louder and louder and louder. And you're inside the house going, no, just go away, spending so much energy resisting the emotion that is right at your door. Another method is to open the door and invite it in. Offer it a drink, give it some tea, offer it a snack, bring anger in. Because when you resist the emotions, you'll discover that the intensity of the emotions is actually less. As soon as you open that door, that resistance falls, and then it just allows you to be like, I'm angry right now, and I'm feeling the anger, and it's here. And you're looking at it right across the table. And then it's gone. It has its cup of tea and it leaves. Whereas if you ignore it and it's knocking at the door, it does not leave. It just gets louder and louder until the door either falls down or you open it in a panic, and then the intensity of the anger is so much more extreme that experiencing it is more unpleasant. So the practice really is inviting your emotions in for tea, bringing them in, allowing yourself to feel them, knowing that emotions will come and go if you allow yourself to feel them. then emotions become less of a trigger to smoke or drink or whatever unwanted habit that you might do to try to ignore that emotion knocking on your door. So number one, allowing emotions to flow. And then number two, well, number one is identifying the emotion. Number two is allowing emotions to flow. And then number three is identifying what you're feeling and whether or not you're trying to make decisions based in love or fear. If it's fear, it'll sound a lot like, I can't stop smoking because X, Y, and Z. I'm afraid of X, Y, and Z, afraid of failure, whatever it may be, versus I'm going to stop smoking because I love my body, right? So everything really can come down to an emotion of love or fear. And you can choose. You can identify, hey, this is a lot of fear coming up. I can let it in. I can let it flow. And then I can open myself up to feeling more love. Because love has a hard time existing with fear in the room. Fear has a hard time existing with love in the room. So spending your time thinking about which of these two emotions you're actually feeling, or which of these two emotions are at the foundation of what you're actually feeling, and which one you want to feel. And then trying to make a choice, letting the unpleasant ones flow and opening yourself up to some of the more pleasant ones. The last piece on emotions could be a whole hour-long talk in and of itself, but it's this idea that you're responsible for how others feel. It's a really common experience that people describe, that they get anxious and uncomfortable when someone else around them is feeling an unpleasant emotion, whether that be anger or fear or sadness, grief. People get really uncomfortable when people are going through uncomfortable emotions. And it's important to remember that you are not responsible for the emotional outcome of someone else. That what you do have control over is how you stay stable in you. And that doesn't mean that just because your loved one or your partner is angry that you need to become angry. This is a form of what sometimes we refer to as codependence. You can see that they're angry and notice that they're stuck in fear and that they might need more love. And so giving them love, even if it's from a distance, and having compassion for them is going to allow you to feel better about your reaction and allow you to not jump into the pool of their negative emotion as they're struggling to let it flow. So as we go through undoing unwanted habits, remember that when it comes to emotions, we want to identify the emotion. We want to learn how to let the emotion flow. And we want to recognize, is love or fear at the foundation of what I'm feeling? And we want to remember, we don't have to be codependent on how other people are feeling. If someone is really struggling, we can give them love and compassion, even if that's from afar. If you need more help on how to apply this to your unique situation, feel free to go to my website. It's habitdesigner.com. The first coaching session is always free. Thank you, and be well.